It was March 7, 1987, Pingwu, Chekwan Province, China. A family of 3, including one young child, were awakened by a loud, high-pitched hum coming from outside their small home. It was around midnight, and they were curious what might be causing it. All 3 went outside to have a look and were instantly engulfed in a yellowish light. It was so bright that it nearly blinded them. Through the haze, they were able to make out that it was coming from a huge, reddish-orange object that was hovering above them, slowly spinning. They claimed that the object was round, quote, like a straw hat. The hum began to grow louder and louder, and all 3 experienced a strange floating sensation. Then they blacked out. When they came to, all 3 found themselves strapped to 3 steel tables in a circular room. While the husband and the child appeared to be in a trance-like state, the woman was awake and terrified. She began screaming hysterically. Just then, a tiny hatchway opened in the wall. She watched as 5 3-foot-tall humanoid creatures walked into the room. These beings were human in shape, but their faces, aside from 3 huge whitish eyes on their foreheads, were featureless. Their skin appeared transparent and bluish in color. The woman could only watch as the beings extracted blood from their arms. They also inserted long needles into their knees and ankle joints. Electrode-like devices were then fastened to their heads, and the woman recalled hearing the loud, high-pitched hum that she initially heard outside her home. She watched as one of the beings made an incision on her child's thigh that was immediately healed by a pencil-like device that was passed over it. At no point did any of these creatures ever attempt to communicate with her, and the terror she felt had become nearly unbearable. Moments after the incision was made on the child's leg, the woman recalls the room becoming dark, and everything began spinning. Her next conscious memory was waking up on a roadside with her husband and child. They were 7 miles from their home. This case was relayed to UFO researcher Lillian Crowner de June and marks one of the very rare instances of alien abduction in China. Another strange case out of China was detailed in the Caesarean Review. It happened in March 1955. A village gardener in Hong Kong, China, named Lao Chi, claims that he was attacked by a strange creature about 50 yards from his home. He described that it was over 6 feet tall, covered with long, shaggy gray hair. It stood upright when it came at him. He managed to punch the creature in the stomach, at which point it fell on him and they grappled for some time. Chi did everything he could to fight the creature off, and eventually it tired of him and loped off on all 4s. Sometime after that, a person who lived not far from Chi watched as a strange animal galloped past her vegetable garden on 4 legs. When she went to investigate it, she discovered large triangular footprints in the soft earth. The tracks were unlike those of a man or an ape. Police officers attempted to locate the strange animal, to no avail. In 1990, a man went to do some 4-wheeling with a friend in the Cargo Muchacho Mountains outside Yuma, Arizona. It was late afternoon, he recalls, when their Jeep broke down. They were quite far from town, and so they decided to sit in the Jeep and wait for a passing car to happen by and maybe give them a lift back. It was so late in the day that no one showed up, and they realized that they would probably have to spend the night out there and wait for the first vehicle in the morning. No big deal. We had food and water. We slept in the Jeep, but we both awoke at around 2 or 3 in the morning to a hissing sound. It didn't sound like a vehicle or helicopter or anything else that could get up there, so we got curious. We got out of the Jeep and walked towards the sound. It came from behind the first bend in the road. We rounded the bend and saw a flying saucer sitting there on the road right in front of our eyes. The witness claims he and his friend were frightened and ran back around the bend. They cautiously made their way to a spot behind some rocks where they were able to observe the object. We saw 3 alien creatures entering the saucer through a door in its side. They were as tall people. I always expected aliens to be very short, but these guys were about 6.5 feet tall. They had very long arms and legs and small torsos. Their heads seemed quite normal size. They were very human-like, just out of proportion. The saucer was about 20 feet across and was wider than the road, so it was sticking out on the slope side of the road. It was shaped like a giant old-fashioned hubcap. After the 3 aliens entered the saucer, it took off up and sideways with the same hissing sound as we had heard before. I don't need to tell you, we didn't go back to sleep again that night. At sunrise, the witness claims he and his friend returned to the landing site to investigate. There was not much to see. It left no trace at all, as far as we could tell.